99. Penis in my mouth. Okay. Why, hello everybody, we are doing UFOs again, motherfuckers, part 3. This is Anthony from Open Mic Pain with Anthony and Wayne. Here, my co-host Wayne. How you doing, Wayne?
I'm doing all right.
Did that sound X-Filesy?
How are you today?
Was that very X-Filesy for you?
No, I had no idea what the fuck you were doing.
Damn it! Please edit that out.
I had no idea. No. No.
Well, that was the X-Files music I tried to bring us into, and I failed. Put in the real one over it. Will we get YouTube copyrighted if you just throw the X-Files over that?
We have gotten copyrighted on music that is approved for YouTube. So, yeah.
I guess you just get copyrighted.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say we get a little copyright note that says, this doesn't affect your video. And I'm like, well, why the fuck did you put it on there? Just, it's almost like getting like a verbal warning from a cop.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if you're going to give me a verbal warning, don't pull me over. I don't need this stress in my life.
I wonder if YouTube is authoritarian. Like, I wonder if they're, like, we just don't know yet because we're not deep enough yet. Like, we're recruits to YouTube at this point because we get no views on our videos. But if we got millions, would we see the veil be stripped from YouTube and see what the Wizard of Oz is over there? And is he a Nazi? I don't know. Should we not say that on YouTube?
Well, if that happens, I can guarantee you I will go through the proper channels and become a whistleblower.
That's what we need. We need whistleblowers. And that, Wayne, is a perfect goddamn segue into what we're doing today, everybody. So this is UFOs Part 3, which we were inspired to do because of the handsomest man in the world, Dave Grush, who went in front of Congress and did a hearing where he told the world that we have crafts and UFO bodies in our possession.
He is very handsome, but I'm leaning a little towards Ryan Graves.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, I told you that you can't look into that man's eyes and not drown in a pool of emotion. But but Ryan actually had the least interesting information out of everybody there, really. I like him. He's great. But in the end, he was just like, hey, I saw one of my guys saw a thing. And Dave Grush has interviewed 40 goddamn people who have been working on UFO crafts and their little bodies that are 3 to 4 feet tall, apparently. Holy shit.
Before we go too far, because I think in this episode we're going to pick up where we left off at Roswell, correct?
We sure are. Yeah, this is going to be history. So we've talked about the hearing, and we've talked about the first part related to David Grush, because he's talked about Roswell, 1933 crashes. And now we're going to move on.
Before we move on, I've been watching a lot of little videos on TikTok and YouTube about the hearings and this and that. And there's something I'd like to clarify, and I've clarified I've clarified this with you off air. But I hear a lot of people talking about how David Grush has not divulged the information that he said he was going to divulge in SCIF to Congress. You had the perfect explanation as to why. Would you like to share that so all these people that aren't going to listen to us and just talk shit on TikTok can be educated?
Yeah, if they ever see it, they'll know. So a SCIF is basically a special room that is going to not have internet access, cameras. It is everybody's, patted down before they get in there. And it's a sensitive, compartmentalized information facility. So that's what SCIF stands for. And Grush, in order to say any classified information, has to do it in one of those rooms. He's not legally allowed to do classified information in a public setting. So that's why a lot of the questions, instead of saying no, he said, I can tell you very specifically the answer to that in a classified setting. And he did say that under oath, meaning that now, once they do get him into a SCIF, if he doesn't answer those questions he said he could, they could charge him with a crime. So again, another credence to why he's saying the truth. Now, to your question, why isn't he already in the SCIF talking to people? One, he apparently already has. He's given testimony to Senate Intelligence Arms Committee staff members and their lawyers. 11 hours of testimony apparently on there. So a lot of this has already happened at the lawyer level. Now all the senators are going, who's the Gaza what? About aliens? Holy fucking shit. And they want to get into the skiff with him. And that's really what the TikTokers are talking about. Why hasn't Tim Burchett gotten to a skiff with Grush? Well, because he doesn't have that security clearance. You can't get into the skiff unless you have a security clearance. So you literally, a lot of people aren't legally allowed to hear the things that he has to say. But there are Marco Rubio, Schumer, the Gang of Eight, all of the higher level Congress people that have gotten either Title 50 or top secret special compartmentalized information clearance or something like that, the highest that it gets. That's what you need to hear David Grush talk in a skiff. So they are going to set that up and they are going to do it. But it's more of a process than, hey, get in that broom closet and let's talk about aliens. You know, there's a system to this.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted you to clarify because, you know, I see a lot of people saying, see, he hasn't done it yet. But I think the important thing to note here is if they were to bring him into skiff and he didn't do it, he'd be in jail. So the fact that he's walking free is a good indication that he just hasn't had the opportunity to do this yet.
Yeah, and again, he hasn't done it for those specific people yet. But he has done it, again, for the Congress lawyers and staffers, but also, everybody keeps forgetting that he went in front of the Inspector General for the goddamn intelligence community and gave him, because that person can hear anything, and he gave him the exact locations, information, and everything he talked about in Congress, he gave to the Inspector General, who deemed that information credible and urgent. And that's why he's even in front of the House Intel community giving testimony, is because he was referred by the Inspector General. And this is not a guy off the street. This is a former Air Force member who worked for the NGA and all kinds of high-level, organizational structures in the government, had the highest clearance that we give out. And he's making very specific and verifiable claims. So, I don't know. Like we said last episode, we're making history here, everybody. But how about some history?
Yeah. So last time we left off at Roswell, 1947, as I was abruptly reminded. So where do we go from there? We talked about the farmer who found the metals, and that's where we left off. Where do we go from there, Anthony?
So basically the idea is, just a quick recap on Roswell. There were two crashes, one of them with the bodies, one of them with the debris field. The theory is that they might have collided two different crafts up high, and the debris field created by the first craft did not have any of the bodies. And then they found the structure of the craft near Corona, New Mexico, and that apparently had living and non-living EBEs, extraterrestrial biological entities. So that story has been corroborated by, I think, 150 first-hand witnesses that were there, sworn affidavits by people like Walter Haut and Jesse Marcel, and a lot of the people that you're going to read on the government's website about Project Mogul and weather balloons and all that have, they're quoted in there saying it's a weather balloon, and then they're quoted afterwards saying the government made them say that and it was an alien spacecraft. So I don't know why they'd lie at that point. None of them have written books. Walter Haut, who is the information officer that said initially that we have flying saucers in our possession, and then had to change it to weather balloon. He made a deathbed affidavit saying that he held pieces of the alien spacecraft, and that's what it was. So Roswell is really cool because it's the really first time that the public was involved in a UFO crash. If you listen to Grush, apparently the government was involved earlier than that, finding archaeological digs or however they found the earlier crafts. But this was really the first time that the first person to the scene was a rancher named Mac Brazel. And it wasn't, the 509 bomb squad that went in from Los Alamos. So anyways, that one happened real. Grush has said that we should trust the witnesses that were in Roswell, and all of them said that they were fucking aliens. So that happened. Now, what was really cool afterwards is the government decided that they needed to create the Air Force, the CIA, and every other basically realm of how you would look into UFOs was created after in 1947. So eventually the government started what they called Project Sign, which was the precursor, along with Project Grudge, to Project Blue Book. So these were the first two UFO programs that the government went, okay, we found a saucer. Now we need to, one, try to find other pieces of material, but we need a program where we're going to look into these UFOs.
Before we go too far, some people who may not be as well read in this topic as myself, or more importantly yourself, they might online have heard the term Project Blue Beam, and you're saying Project Blue Book. Those are two different things. One is completely, in my opinion, asinine, which is Project Blue Beam, and one is a little more plausible, which is Project Blue Book. Are you familiar with Blue Beam at all?
Yeah, it's something about the aliens on the moon, right?
Nope. So Project Blue Beam is it's the idea that the government is going to stage an alien invasion to gain more control over the population, if I understand it correctly.
Sure.
Yeah. So I want people to realize that those are two different things.
Yeah,
Project Blue Book is not Project Blue Beam.
Yes. So Project Sign and Grudge, the precursor to Project Blue Book, as we were getting into, was the non-public facing version of a UFO program. So the government was secretly, and we found this through declassified memos that you can find on literally the FBI's website. You can look them up and see them. Memos from high-level government officials of the time, Twining, General Nathan Twining, you got Eisenhower, you got Truman. All these people during this time were working on UFOs and trying to figure out what they were behind the scenes. Eventually, people went after 1952, when, again, we want to talk about the UFOs buzzing the White House. Look that up. That shit happened, where for 2 weekends in a row, 4 flying saucers plus were outside the White House going around them, and we've sent out fighter jets to intercept them to no avail. So that fucking happened. It was all over the newspapers, and the government said, all right, we're going to do a UFO program that's public facing. So we're going to hire J. Allen Hynek, who was a astronomer, and he was kind of famous, and he's going to go out there when people claim they see UFOs. He's going to give a public conference about it after all of them. And all this was the government's debunking program. So Hynek wrote a book later in life where he talked about all the government wanted him to do was, when somebody saw a flying saucer, tell the world that it wasn't flying a saucer. If you've heard about UFOs at all, you probably heard swamp gas. Have you ever heard that, Wayne? Someone talk about swamp gas and UFOs?
Sure have.
And that comes from Mr. J. Allen Hynek. There was a Michigan UFO case where apparently a UFO hovered over woods and molten lava fell out of it. It wasn't lava. It was basically apparently is a discharge to the propulsion system of the craft, and that fell out, witnessed by a lot of people, hovering, shot in space. And Allen Hynek did a press conference where he said it was most likely swamp gas. And now that I say swamp gas, maybe it wasn't Michigan. I don't fucking know, but it was somewhere around there. I'm doing this without notes, you sons of bitches. I'm doing good.
Swamp gas in Michigan, they go hand in hand.
They do. Swamp ass in Michigan fucking does.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Have you ever seen swamp gas? What is that a thing? Is swamp gas a thing?
It is, yeah. It's I haven't seen it, but it's a phenomenon of the air differential from the gas, I don't know, nitrogen, ammonia that comes out of the swamp, mixes with colder temperatures, and it can create like an optical illusion, according to Hynek. But he was really grasping at straws, and that's really what he was doing, because it was a cut and dry witness case with metallurgy samples that actually has been analyzed by another handsome brother, is Dr. Gary Nolan from Stanford, and he looked at that very case. And again, I don't remember if it's a swamp gas one. It's Michigan. One of those two happened. We're going to be loose with the facts here, everybody. But we're going to be in the middle, like, I'm mostly right. Just like your uncle who talks about conspiracies at Thanksgiving, he's mostly right. They are making the frogs gay with the water. They are. That happened. Alex Jones was right. Okay, so Project Blue Book. He was right about most of the stuff. He was really wrong about one of the things. He was really, really wrong about one of them.
Yeah, he's been wrong about a few, but one of them he was deeply wrong
What
about.
other one was he wrong about? This is the thing that drives me nuts. Everybody's like, "Oh, he's a crazy." They are making the frogs gay with the chemicals that they put in the water.
I mean, I've never seen two frogs, 96ing or whatever, whatever gay frogs would do.
Well, it actually makes them like trans, like they switch, like the females can have penises and the males can lay fertilizable eggs. No,
that's bullshit.
It's not.
That's just an angry scientist.
No, I'm telling you.
He's like, no, fuck it. No, they switched. This is a woman. No, it's not. It's a man. It's a man.
I know. Where's Matt Walsh in frog form to make the "What Is a Woman" documentary for frogs? I don't remember where I left off. So Project Blue Book, they did this
Swamp
charade.
gas.
Yeah, swamp gas. So they did this charade for roughly 20 years. And then again, I'm probably saying this date wrong, but I think it was 1969. They did a report called the...
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. Called the Condon Report. So the Condon Report was made by a cunt named Condon. And basically, Congress went, hey, we're spending 20 years looking at UFOs, and all this Heineck dickhead does is say swamp gas. So are we wasting money? And Condon wrote in and wrote a report. And before he wrote the report, he was really pissed he had to write one because he's like, this is all bullshit. It's just fucking UFOs. Who cares about this? Those aren't real. And at the end, the Condon Report basically shows a bunch of unidentified cases that are incredibly anomalous. That would seem to point towards something extraterrestrial. But the last couple pages, he gives his conclusion and he says, there shouldn't be a Project Blue Book, nothing to see here. And from there, they shut down Blue Book. Oh. Sorry, I thought you were going to jump in there. Blue Book is gone, everybody. So we're going to have to move on now.
I'm lost at this point, so this is your territory.
Yeah, all I said was Blue Book ended, and I thought you were going to ask another question about Blue Book. Everybody, we've recorded. Take you behind the scenes. We've recorded a couple episodes tonight, and I am tired, so I'm being less than friendly to Wayne. Sorry, Wayne.
Very less than, and you'll find out in editing because I'm going to be fucking sassy.
Yeah,
on these 3 episods.
Wayne's
I'll tell you right now.
Sassy in his editing.
Make sure you check out the YouTube versions. I'm going to have thought bubbles like, man, I wish I slept a little more so I wouldn't be such a cunt to Wayne.
Make sure you put thought bubbles over yourself, like having a fucking thought after I say Project Blue Book's over. It's like the end of a segment. You have to have a thought. That's your job.
I was a deer in headlights. I was like, fuck, what am I supposed to say? I don't know any part of this. I have no questions. What comes after Project Blue Book, Anthony?
That would have been a question. That would have been perfectly fine to say after that. That would have actually segued us into the next fucking point. Yeah, all that's going to get cut out.
No, it's not.
Oh, fuck. Okay, so from 1969, go ahead, Wayne, get yourself a little fucking 12-year-old chuckle again. 69! Penis in my mouth. Okay. I'll be the start of the episode. God damn it. Alright, I'm going to jump, because I hate Wayne so much, right into the 90s. So we're going to talk about 2 amazing cases for the 90s. Do you have any questions from 1969 to 1980, Wayne?
When was O'Hare Airport?
2006.
Okay.
So
that's my favorite case.
Calm your fucking dick about it, all right? We'll get there.
Calm your tits.
No. Okay.
I was just going to ask, have you ever seen that meme? Yes, Calm your tits. It's my favorite meme of all time.
Yeah, you definitely did that impression better than me. Okay, two cases.
Into the 90s.
In the 90s. All right, the first we're going to talk about takes place in, it's going to make you fucking giggle like a little fucking schoolgirl again. Varginha, Brazil. Yeah, I knew it. I knew we couldn't get through this one. God damn it.
I'm actually very familiar.
Yeah, no, you're not.
I am. There is the out of all of the cities or cities, right, in Brazil.
Yep.
That has the highest concentration.
Can't even get through it. Can't even get through it.
I can't.
You wouldn't know a Varginha if it spit one of your kids out. Okay.
That has the highest concentration of people named Bob. Bob's and Vagine?
Bob's and Vagine?
Come on.
No.
You don't know that?
No. What is that? Everybody else is going to think that's a terrible joke, too. Where are you pulling that from?
No. Bob's and Vagine. It's the... It's the memes of like the get canceled. The Indian people commenting on pictures of women saying, "Can I see a Bob's and Vagine?"
You had to explain it, but once you did, it was funny. I take back my criticism. Mine was better though. Okay. So now that we spent 3 minutes getting through Wayne's fucking 11-year-old not being able to hear Virginia without fucking going... in Brazil, there was a very good case called the Roswell of Brazil. So what happened there was a craft went down in Brazil where 3 small aliens, apparently they had red eyes and horns on their head and shit, crazy. There's a movie actually about this called Moment of Contact, directed by James Fox, who was also the director of The Phenomenon, the best UFO movie I think of all time.
Is this the one where they smelled really horrible?
They did. Yep, that's this case. So this one's really interesting because there's a lot of corroborating evidence from the Brazilian government. So the story is these aliens walked around for days. Apparently they're crash craft, and there was rumors of some sort of, other aliens trying to save them via craft. Like people saw, reported a UFO with a spotlight down on the ground for days at a time. But anyways, eventually at least one of these beings ended up with the government.
What do you mean that they were just running around?
So
were they like running from like cover to cover like Years of War?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. There's no better I was going to say yeah, and nope, that's exactly what they did. They did that for the crash happened, and 3 days later, this is why we know this, these beings, or being, I don't know how many of them were got by the government at this point, were picked up by the Brazilian government because these beings walked into the town of Varginha. They walked in there, and everybody went, ah! They called the fucking Air Force. And so the Air Force went down, they grabbed them. And what's really interesting about this case is a army officer or whatever, Brazil, died. So apparently when grabbing this smelly-ass creature, he contracted a cut because it was alive, and he got a biological, infection that killed him, and that happened.
I will say, I was immediately thinking, who would touch a creature that you're not familiar with? But quick story: when I was in Mexico, they have like these little like red raccoon looking things, and I forget what they're called, but. So we're walking around the resort, and I see one of these red raccoon things, and I put my hand down. I was like, hey, buddy, what's up? And he went, fuck you, and just like, smacked my hand. I was like, Jesus Christ. So we go to dinner, and I say to the hostess, I was like, hey, those little red raccoon things, and she told me the real name. I was like, they're pretty cool, huh? She goes, oh, no, rabies. I was like, oh, cool. The next night at dinner, we were eating outside, and one came up behind my chair, and yeah, I turned around. I was like, hey, buddy, what's going on? I put So I didn't learn my lesson. They were really adorable, but
So the same.
I'm alive. I don't have rabies.
Yeah. So imagine your stupidity, but in a Brazilian soldier's head. And that's what happened during this alien encounter. And he was like, look at a red raccoon. And it killed him. And so it is verifiable that a soldier died the week that apparently this went down. There's also a bunch of Brazilian doctors who have gone on the record saying that they did an autopsy of the creature that came in. And they all said it smelled like shit. But anyways, James Fox, the director we talked about a moment of contact, is trying to get alleged video of the autopsy. He says it exists. He says he's offered a lot of money for it. But like most other things in this goddamn UFO topic, everything is, I have a video, I just can't show it to you. So that happened there. Great case, Brazilian Roswell. One more time for Wayne. Virginia, Brazil. Okay. So next, we get to Phoenix, Arizona. You know this one, Wayne.
I do. The Phoenix Lights.
Yes.
Probably one of the most well-known sightings because it was seen by so many people, including politicians and stuff that claim to have seen it, right?
Yeah, Simon Fife, the governor of Arizona at the time, was a huge pussy. So we'll get to why. This is a tease. He's a huge pussy, but we'll get to that later.
Because he was the governor of Arizona.
Yeah, I know. Jesus Christ, man. Can you pick a drier vagina to put your dick in? Okay, so Simon Fife, governor of Arizona. There's a giant craft, football field size, triangle shape, that went across Arizona very slowly for hours. And almost everybody saw it, including the governor of Arizona. But instead of telling the world, hey, I saw this too, in a press conference, he said that he had his chief of staff dress up as an alien. And he said that
this.
Yeah, and he made a farce of it. He said he was doing that to lighten the mood because he was extremely scared of what he saw. Because it came out later, again in The Phenomenon by James Fox, sexy motherfucker. And he said that he was a dirty liar at the time. So that's a really cool one because, I mean, although there isn't great video of it because of the time that it was in 97, I think it was, it still is to this day probably the biggest mass sighting in America.
An interesting thing about that, you said it's the size of a football field. At the hearings last week, they also mentioned a craft the size of a football field.
Yeah, and this was another mass sighting too. So this isn't publicly known yet, but there are I don't want to call them army. There are military officials who are planning to come out on the record about this case. Apparently, there's I don't like when they call it football field sized, even though I just did that. I just mean huge. Because when somebody's saying football field size, they don't know what they're talking about. Because when something's in the sky, the perspective is completely different. How are you going to know it's 100 yards? It might just be very big. But anyways, a very big red square hovered over a submarine facility. And this was testimony given to Ryan Graves for his company that he has. That's like Safety for Aerospace, whatever the hell the name of the company is. Awesome. Look it up. If anything, you just get to see his face, and that's good enough. Hey, he's handsome. Fuck you. This is what it is. So now we're going to get into the 2000s. The bicentennial happened. We went from 1999 to 2000 and nobody died. If you were born after 2000, first of all, fuck you. Second of all, you don't know what that shit
all
was
three
like.
of our kids.
Yeah, well, not only
Fuck
that.
all three of them.
That's the thing. We have 3 kids, and we think that only our kids were young enough to be born after the year 2000. But then you figure out that we do comedy with like 100 people that were born after the year 2000. And it'll make you feel bad.
I would like to clarify. You have 2 kids. I have 1 kid. We do not have 3 kids together.
Yes, we do. Stop it. Stop lying to the people.
You're not pleading our case very well to that cocksucker Booker.
They're all Puerto Rican, and they're going to be MLB baseball stars, all right? And that's what we're raising. Okay. So, we're in the 2000s. The world hasn't crashed. Everybody was really being a pussy about that. And we get to the year 2004. Do you know what happened in 2004, Wayne?
Was that Chicago?
No, I already said that was 2006. Why
Yeah,
do you want me to hit you? Okay.
I enjoy the pain.
Yeah, you sure do. Dave Fravor from the hearing. This is the Nimitz, baby. So if you watched the hearing, you heard David Fravor give his account of the Nimitz in 2004. I'll give you a quick synopsis. The Nimitz Carrier Strike Group, which was a nuclear-capable aircraft carrier that David Fravor, Top Gun pilot, again, handsome, all as all hell, was out in Southern California, and he encountered the famous Tic Tac UFO that was above 80,000 feet, went down to sea level in under a second. Holy fucking shit. Crazy shit. So he did that. It's probably the best publicly available UFO case as far as data goes, because we not only have radar data, but we have eyewitness from 4 separate pilots, and we have apparently satellite imagery that would be classified, but it has been told by George Knapp that we do have that. So this is a really good one. You know, I don't think it gets much better than this as far as the government having data that they can unclassify and show. So that will push us to the one that Wayne keeps teasing, baby, and that's Chicago, Illinois. We get to O'Hare Airport in 2006. There's a beautiful movie called UFO that came out just a couple years ago that's loosely based on these events. So what happened was, in broad daylight at the Chicago O'Hare Airport, a UFO came down as a flying saucer and hovered over one of the tarmacs for a long time. So much so that the dispatch lady that was doing flight safety called over, and you can listen to the tapes online. It's so good. She calls in and she's like, Jim, do you see a flying saucer about 20 yards above your head? And the guy's like, Debbie, are you drinking again? Like, he says it just like that. And she's like, fuck you! But it's pretty good. Like, everybody's got this girl in their office that you're like, listen, the Illuminati isn't stealing your cats. You're drinking vodka in your soda cup right now. And that was Debbie, or whatever that she was. So Debbie freaked the fuck out, and a lot of people loading luggage saw it. And then it apparently punched a hole up, flew right away forward, and left an imprint in the clouds of a circle. And that is really interesting because the government came out afterwards of investigating it and said that they believe that they acknowledged that a hole was punched in the clouds, perfectly circular, and they said that that was a natural weather phenomenon. So just lying sons of bitches.
Sure, I've never seen that in my life, so
yeah, you can't.
I think they just discovered another type of like cloud formation recently. I'll have to go back and look, but I remember seeing something about that where they had some weird cloud formation, and they were like, "Oh yeah, no, that's this," and it's like nobody's ever fucking seen that.
Yeah, well, every time you get close to a UFO, some kind of new natural phenomenon happens to explain it away. Those fucking dirty lying sons of bitches.
Yeah, no shit.
All right, we're barreling towards the end here, Wayne. We only have a couple more things to talk about. The next thing we're going to talk about isn't a UFO sighting, which is crazy. It is the biggest thing to happen in UFO history. It's led us to these hearings today, and it has nothing to do with a physical UFO. And that was the 2017 New York Times story, where we found out as a nation that the government has been running a secret UFO program for a long time. at least since 2008, when Lou Elizondo, who is the godfather, godpappy of the UFO movement nowadays, ran the program. It was called ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. And it was a derivative of a program called OSAP. I'm not going to say that one because we're going to get bored if I keep saying the acronyms to these things. But the idea is the government was putting money in. Harry Reid allotted, I believe it was $20 million for us to research UFOs, and Lou Elizondo ran that program. And in 2017, Lou Elizondo found out that all of this was real and that nobody in the higher levels of our government were getting read into it. They were getting protected from it. Like Jim Mattis, ended up being the Secretary of Defense for Donald Trump. He was very high up in the Army, obviously, in the military, obviously, during this time. And Lou Elizondo tried to brief him on the UFO problem. And he was denied this briefing. So what Lou did is he resigned. Because when you resign, you have to send a letter that has to be read and signed off on by Jim Mattis. And in it, Lou Elizondo told the world, because he knew it would be public, that UFOs were real and the government's not paying attention to them. And at the same time that happened, Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 partnered with Lou Elizondo and former Secretary of the Pentagon. It's like the second level of highest level in the Pentagon. His name is Chris Mellon. He's from the Mellon family, who are one of the richest families in the entire world. So you know he's not doing this for money. Leaked 3 videos on the internet. One of the Tic Tac event, one of the gimbal, which was from Ryan Graves' encounter, and one was Go Fast, which was not with either of them, but it showed a really fast UFO. These videos were leaked on the New York Times. Lou Elizondo came out publicly and said that he worked in the program and UFOs are real. And all of this leads us to where we are today. Because since 2017, Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon have been behind the scenes helping Senate, helping Congress draft the laws that allowed David Grush to come out as a whistleblower. So anything you see today is because of Lou Elizondo. If you ever listen to this, Lou, know that I believe that you're a hero. And that's serious. Like, we've been joking a lot on this podcast because Wayne is making me kill myself. But Lou Elizondo is an American hero, everybody. And if you say a bad word about him, I will beat the shit out of you.
I was not super familiar with that whole thing, with why that came out in 2017. That whole thing with Lou Elizondo. I actually don't know how we haven't talked about that. I did not know any of that.
Yeah, it's actually I'll end on this because we're getting towards the end here. I think there's a very rational argument that could be made that all of this it's not what I believe, but I believe there's an argument to be had here. This is all a psyop by the government, meaning that all of the UFO folklore that we heard was propagated by the government in order to hide, advanced technology that we have, in order to, distract from something else that's going on, all of this. And I'll tell you why. Since 2017, Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon are behind everything. Every witness that came out has some kind of affiliation to Lou Elizondo, has talked about him in the past, has been coached by him, knows, all of them. Bob Bigelow, who ran Bigelow Aerospace, who was the funding recipient for OSAP, the precursor program to ATIP, also was familiar with Lou Elizondo, who worked for Bob Bigelow. Eric Davis, associate, and made reports for Lou Elizondo that work together now. David Grush worked for a Colorado company that was associated with Eric Davis again. If you name a person, somewhere down the road, they've worked with Lou Elizondo on this program. Now, the UFO argument here is, he's going to be behind everything because he's the biggest figure in this. He worked for the UFO program. Everybody who's interested in UFOs during that time would go to him. So that's why he's behind everything. And again, I think he's an American hero, and I believe the words that he's saying because he really didn't gain much out of all of this. He's actually done a tremendous amount of what I imagine is free work. And to this day, Lou Elizondo works for the Space Force for the government. So he's still part of the government. So all of this to be said is there's no craft in our hands right now as far as the public knows. There's just stories about it. So you have to be careful. You can't jump all in. I know I'm very knowledgeable in this field, but I still keep a skeptical mind because people are awful and they're dirty fucking liars. I say that every week for different reasons, but this is another one of them. People fucking lie. So this has been part 3 of the UFO show. Wayne, do you have anything else to say about the wonderful wide world of UFOs?
I don't. It's been great to talk about this again. I look forward to this being an ongoing series as more comes out with David Grush and Congress and all that. And I'm sure there's more we can talk about a little more in depth. So, yeah, I don't have anything more to say about what we talked about today. But
there you go. Yeah, so we don't have plans. This is the 3 of 3 that we've planned for the UFO case. This has got us through the hearings. As Wayne said, if there's more development, which there's going to be, in the world of UFOs, we'll pop in on an episode and do it. If this is extremely uninteresting to you, tell Wayne in the comments, and he will tell me, and we'll never do one again, and I will stop indulging myself. But just remember, everybody, there's probably aliens out there, so they most likely want our asshole. And I'm not saying that because it's like the cliche thing to say about aliens. Like if you read the autopsy reports from Roswell that exist, and Lieutenant Colonel Corso wrote in the book The Day After Roswell, read that book, everybody, they didn't have assholes. So they probably, like if I didn't have an asshole, all I would be going after people for would be their asshole.
yeah, I think I was going to ask you that question because I was thinking about we've seen some things that are not official, quote unquote, that have come up where they say that aliens excrete through their skin. They don't have traditional, intestines and kidneys and all that shit to filter and get rid of shit, so they excrete through their skin. So I was wondering if maybe that whole thing about assholes is true, because they're just like, man, what is this?
Yeah, there was a molecular biologist that went onto Reddit recently and did a whole, I used to work on biological aliens for a company, and I sequenced the genome, and basically, this guy was definitely a molecular biologist by the vernacular that he was able to use, and all of the, things the presuppositions he made seemed true in this Reddit post, and this was a couple weeks ago. So it was a really cool one. But what's also awesome is that it correlates to the Virginia, Brazil case where they smelled like shit. And it's probably because if they do have a waste system through their skin, that would make sense. So it's a really cool idea. Really, like Lou Elizondo will tell you, again, in the interviews that he's done, that maybe these aliens are like 3D printed, meaning they're part technology, part biological, in the sense of these aren't really the aliens that are, visiting us. These are their avatars. Because if you were a, field of gas that was sentient and you were in a craft that was coming to Earth, you probably would want to visit Earth as something that looked a little bit more like the people that are on there so that they can perceive you. Like if we wanted to study an ant colony, we would probably, the best thing to do would to send in a little robotic ant that looked a little bit different than the rest of the ants, so for that they would let it in, but they would know it was different enough. And that's Lou Elizondo's kind of idea of what these gray aliens are. Avatars for a much different alien race.
I don't know about that. So part of that makes sense, but part of it doesn't. Why would they have a waste system? Why wouldn't it just be like a full-blown robot with, like a Chuck E. Cheese fucking skin suit, like,
Well, really, if you think about it, it's kind of what it is. So go over the gray alien anatomy. Theories are that they had a headset that connected to the spacecraft and used telepathy to drive. So that was one of the theories that seemed to go forward on it. They had no asshole or dick and didn't have a eating tube to eat. So the theory is that if you're going to travel long distances across space and you're going to do a craft that travels in so many G's that it would make a regular person's soup inside of it, you would need to send an expandable mission-derived entity out there to do your bidding for you, like how we send Mars rover. We don't send people out to Mars. They do the same thing. But let's say that you wanted to land a craft so that a group of monkeys were able to get that craft and reverse engineer it and create technology, and that's what you were trying to do. You would want them to know that it wasn't designed on Earth. The only way to do that would be to put pilots in it. And if you wanted to put pilots in a way that they know it was alien, you would make it look a little bit like the humans. So I think that's the theory. And the only reason why I give it credence is it comes from Lou Elizondo, and everything that he says comes from the government UFO program. So yeah.
I don't 100% buy that. I buy a lot of the stuff we talked about tonight, but something about that, it doesn't sit well with me.
I trust in Lou, Papa Lou, for the win. But anyways, I think that does it, right, Wayne?
I don't think we have anything else to cover tonight. I think we've gone from 1947 all the way up to 2023. So, I mean, that's a pretty good Yeah, there's not really much else.
And somebody give me a fucking award for doing this without notes, okay? This is all off the tip of my deranged brain. So now, everybody, this might not have been a step towards the quest for laughs, but it was a step towards the quest for truth. Bye, everybody. How you like that fucking ad?
It's the means of like the get canceled. The Indian people commenting on pictures of women saying, "Can I see your bobs and vagine?"